All right, we are live. Thank you, everyone. Today, as you can see, I'm by the co-captain.
Hello, James. Hey, everyone. How's it going?
I knew it. The dad joke was coming.
Yeah, definitely.
Ah, all right. So today we are reviewing our Jigglez. You haven't been around the league for a while. That is, in fact, a G-Men, which is frankly one of the best legacy teams in the game. What were your thoughts going into this?
I was obviously worried, concerned, nervous. Nervous is probably the best word for it. You know, I always get like that before certain matches. There's certain teams which will make me nervous, and G-Men are definitely one of those teams. For a couple of reasons. One because they are an incredibly good team. Then they're also a little bit unknown at the moment. So people were expecting us to win, even though it's G-Men. They're a team which has been around since what, season 2, 1?
Yeah,
That sort of
yeah, I think season
a
two.
long time. Yeah,
They've been here for a minute, to say the least.
they're a very good team. They've won most of their encounters with us. I think that I know of, we've won one during regular season. So I was expecting a really big fight, and yeah, I'm sure I'm sure the stream will show that.
Yeah, and I think one thing that was interesting about it, I'm sure you noticed this too, was the fact that people were voting heavily for us to win, which I was surprised by that. I think some of it is just new players voting and all that, but what did you think about that kind of one-sidedness?
Yeah, I was thinking it's a new players voting. The change in name to Jigglez, the fact that G-Men had not really been around as much in the off season, but all of those things I don't think were super valid for this first match because they're very traditional maps. We were always gonna be playing traditional maps. Mayhem haven't had time to get really up to speed on the new maps, and Jigglez were always going to choose traditional maps. So we're playing on maps which they have played a lot. We're playing against the same players. They don't have a new roster. It's the same G-Men players. They've just got a new name. But I can understand why the voting was so heavily one-sided.
Fair enough. All right, well, at that, let's get into the footage. Second, everybody, I will switch over. Okay, and
Just as a heads up, it's about a 5-second delay for me watching via Twitch. So when I'm looking at footage, if I sounds like I'm commenting on something which has already occurred for you, that's why.
gotcha, not a problem. All right, so just so everybody knows, I already told James this. This is a kind of a fast cut of this match because I didn't want us to have to sit through me skipping around. Or hopefully, this will be a more efficient way to watch this. It'll transition straight to the next round time that happens. And also in this match, unfortunately, there was a malfunction with the overlays, and we missed a couple of rounds. So I'm just going to play James and I's POV from those rounds. Let's get started with
matchup of this first week of Season 11. Let's see what happens here. Jigglez on the offense for this Western Courtyard.
Right, so we've got West Objective, Bazaar, pretty a lockdown type defense. You don't want them to be able to cross to the objective because it's very capable. Yeah, so you'll see that defense. We've set it up with that.
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I don't
watching the
think I've
cross
ever been that
from
concerned that far back, so I'm not sure if they have
I want to call it by our call out, but that doesn't mean anything. We call it blue, but it's those buildings to the east of the objective. You don't want to let people cross across there. You also don't want to let people coming from the north or the south multiple ways into the objective. G-Men are worried about Kiot here, as is talked about in the cast. You can see that they're really watching the Kiot region. Data, if you're talking, nothing's coming through. Just
no,
heads up.
I'm not saying anything.
Okay, so I was just checking.
Yeah,
So defense setup wise, so this screen gives a good overview of it. We have Wookiee in the northwest. We have Theta in what we call blue 6. which is Theta's pointing it out, and we have Defilade and Blue 7, Capitano out in the far west supporting Theta, and myself watching the south from the market. Yeah, so we'll see how this progresses.
I'll say it was interesting because on this first round, G-Men, or whatever you want to call them, much more cautious. It was a much different tempo than what we saw the rest of the map, from what I remember. That's when you can see
Yeah,
really kind of slow crawling through the market, trying to angles, and they were.
Yeah, and it surprised us on the next attack, as you'll see. And the theme of Bazaar is that, for me personally at least, I did stuff which I would never normally do. You will never have seen me do it in last season, like dumb stuff on defense. If you look back at last season, I would never have done it. If you look forward to the rest of the season, I'll never do it again. It's just I don't know, first map of the season, stupid jitter type stuff. Yeah, and I'll highlight a few of those things as they come through. Is it just Theta, Willem, with the mic glitch, or is it me as well?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what's happening. My levels are showing that I'm coming through, but maybe it's, I don't know, a lag spike, something like that. I'm not sure what's happening with that. Yeah, if you guys are hearing it, just keep letting me know. Try to fix it.
So you can see Cappy's position is to cover this, and he does hit the shot. Unfortunately, it's not a headshot.
Oh, he sees him now. There it is. That's a down. Should be a res available, though. Plenty of Jigglez players left in that area to pick him up. Let's take a look at the contact here. 404 and Defilade in a little scrap. Defilade going to be coming out on top of that one.
If we'd lost Defilade there, that would have been a much different defense. Would have been a lot harder.
Yeah, just in general.
And maybe something will adjust.
It feels like on this defense, if you lose that line of Defilade and me, and sometimes we have other people playing those positions, but if you just lose those two people, defending this becomes so much harder.
Yeah.
And
we got variations to instead cover this zone which they're entering here, and maybe those variations need to come out a bit more often, because people, especially with how the smoothing is now, people can swing into rooms really quick, and you just can't do anything about them. You'll see this how Theta dies, like he just gets swung on so quick, and nothing you can do about it. The peeker advantage, you'll get killed first.
One thing I'll say it was nice is so far, at least from the cast I've seen and all that, we're not seeing people smoking through walls on this, because that was kind of the old school tactic to use. But people are now just confronting each other in these spots, which I think is a better fight, and that's really kind of the cleaner way to play it. Yeah, here.
It's almost, if we could get a cross cover line to cover you, I could almost do it from my position to cover you from this here, because I eventually kill Biggie straight away afterwards. I just miss Brass as he comes onto you, and then I kill Biggie straight afterwards.
Yeah, that peek he had on me was so fast. I was so screwed. I couldn't do anything about it. It's just too quick.
I was worried about the objective here. I thought if they'd shot you and Defilade and straight away crossed, they could have gotten across. So I was moving to get onto the objective when I get shot here. Yeah. Because I was worried, because they could have killed you and just crossed straight across the street and be inside that building. And a cap, first round cap on Bazaar, whilst it is our tradition, is not something we want to make too much of a habit of. This objective, I hate defending it with 2 up. With Defilade downed, that helps a lot. But you've got to cover you can't let them cross the street in. You can't let them get in the backside.
It's just,
you can't let them get from the north down.
It's so hard to cover the objective area when you only have people in the west, because like you said, they can get across the street. And like to check that spot, you have to expose yourself so hard to run into those little rooms over there. Just easy to get picked.
That's where I feel this objective when you're attacking is probably a good one to play like you're the last man, even when you have 1 or 2 up, because that last person can do so much damage just through rotations and movements. Once you get the enemy down to like three up, that's super powerful. This round here, really the biggest thing to take away from this is to highlight the importance of confirming your kills.
Yep.
Our kill count was off, and that almost screwed this whole round. My movements were done entirely based upon kill count, and I would not have done it if I'd known there were 3 up rather than 2.
Yeah, my death was pretty unfortunate in this round too. I'm not going to give it away.
Cappy,
if I haven't seen it.
Yeah. Cappy actually had, I know you've seen the last round, most people, but Cappy actually had a really good Bazaar. He got like 8 kills on Bazaar, I think. Only 6 on the scoreboard, though.
Yeah, I kept dying really early. I could not contribute. It was a terrible map for me.
Well, actually, technically, Cappy got 10 kills on Bazaar, I should say. Yeah, you'll see. Yeah, well, I agree. Covering that objective with 1 person is pretty much impossible. You can either do the rotation and the attack eventually will pick you off and you'll lose 1 point, or you can try and go for the luck element and you will sometimes get lucky and happen to choose the direction which the attacker comes in. Other times you won't and they will cap on you. So it's deciding which of those you want to go for. And it really depends how many enemies are up, whether you know where the enemy is, how much time is left in the round, all those factors. As you can see, Cappy just shot Theta in the back of the head.
Mm-hmm.
He was completely shaded on to Cappy. As you can see, Cappy's you can watch Cappy right here. He looks like a Volk player. Well, not anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, I was watching through his perspective, and I wasn't even mad when I saw it because my body was black. And he had heard somebody over there. He knew somebody was in that vicinity. So it wasn't a bad instinct to have. I was being super quiet behind him. He thought the guy that was in front of him had crept on him. It was a mistake anybody could have made.
This is the team attacking through the mid here, and you often do have a team. It's often 2 people. They're the ones who have to work together the whole time. It's the hardest one to work with. This is the critical point where we need to really confirm those shots. So I think definitely put a shot on. The only problem is I think when you're downed, your body armor is still active. So if you've been downed by being shot not in the body armor, so you haven't zeroed your body armor, and you shoot a downed player in the body armor, I need to test this. But I'm pretty sure I've had some scenarios where the body armor absorbs the confirmation shot. So something to check out.
I'm sure the league would love that juicy bit of information because I think we've all had kind of frustrating experiences with body armor and down bodies at this point.
Yep. You'll see it in a much later round. You'll see me use about a magazine and a half to confirm a body. Yeah, Polo. Body armor has 30 points of non-multiplier damage. See, my movement here, if there were 2 enemies up, I would do this movement. With 3 enemies up, I would not do this movement. This movement here. Because 404's position would be unlikely to be watching the north, and just the north, with 2 up. The head needs to be much more objective focused.
Wookie's coming through. Capitano, meanwhile, gets the back of 404. Wookie swings, gets the trade on Idiot there, and we're into a 1v1. Let's ride along with Capitano.
Cappy just does the right thing. He just waits.
Exactly what
Yep, he just
maybe a little bit too exposed, but he just waits.
Yeah, because you have to know if there's 1 up. I don't know if he had a great kill count, probably not, but if you know there's 1 up...
No, we had a good kill count. The kill count at the moment is 0.
Yep.
We had 1. Whoa. Did you just lose me?
No, I'm still here.
Can you hear me, Theta?
Yep. Can you?
I'm back. Yeah, I'm back.
Okay. Wasn't sure
Sorry.
if there was something going on with my side or not.
No.
Let's see.
Oh, the Twitch is frozen on me though.
Yeah, I
better.
minimized it on accident. Sorry about that, guys.
Cool.
All right, so this is your POV on the missing round, and this is when we had the East Courtyard objective.
This is the first time I do something I will never ever do again, and I will never have done in the past. Actually, no, I have done it once, but shouldn't do. And that is, I stand here. I never stand here. I crouch behind the planter. I've exposed myself to so many angles here. I thought I had more time. So yeah.
Here,
So now and then that was me. Yeah.
This a little
So
bit.
So my view from that planter is when I get to it is a reaction point. I can react up and then shoot after they've breached onto Theta, but I can also watch the north from that planter. So I'm mainly watching the north and then reacting up. It's because I took a while to get here because I dropped the magazine and then I was like, oh, there are shots coming. So I didn't ever get into my established position. I didn't ever crouch. I should have crouched. See here, I haven't got in my position. I'm not in my position, and there are shots which occur in the middle of the screen. Shots occur in that sort of zone, and so I stay up. Done.
And I'm behind this tree right now, so what's about to happen is 3 of them, you can see, I don't know if you can see it on this clip necessarily, but 3 of them push through this little slit to the side. One takes out James, the one runs around and gets me. See, it's very, very quick. We knew they were coming. They'd thrown a flash. They were shooting. James goes down, and then I get stormed. Probably should have made it so fast. Oh, well. So on to the next round.
Yeah, so this time, same objective on attack. We get the slower spawn. Not ideal. I'm going to go clear North Street. Cappy's with me. Cappy's going to go to Kiot. That was me pointing to Cappy. Go Kiot. Doing a quick check down North Street, and then I'm going to go to the dumpster and just hold the North Street for a little bit to see if there's any rotations, and then try and clear the red vehicle. So I'm just slicing it out a little bit before getting to the safe spot of the dumpster. Yeah, only exposing myself to the zone which I'm clearing. And now I want to try and clear. So I've tried to clear most of North plus red, looking for any movement. It's sometimes hard to see any movement in that far northeast corner, in that little dark area. So I am checking it multiple times. And I'm confident that there's no one there at this point.
Hey, Casham. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, and on this round, I was giving a call out, no one had crossed south either, so...
They smoke the tank. So that tank cross is quite common, and if you can shut it down, it's great. So they smoked the tank, but only pretended to cross. They didn't actually cross.
Yep. I thought for sure I was going to get a free kill when I saw that smoke come out, but they were just trying to distract us.
I feel like we should have won this round, to be fair. Again, I did something a little bit dumb in the end, but it's because I thought we had established control of pink. Pink being the northeastern quadrant. There's things I would adjust based upon what I did in this round next time. And that's always good to take those things out and really think about what you've done every single time and be like, how would I do that better next time? So I'm a bit worried about Kiot here because Cappy thinks he might have heard someone. No, that's actually on a different objective, disregard. But Cappy's in Kiot region now. Cappy's got Kiot. There's a little bit of disconnect between myself and Cappy. He ended up a bit further back than I thought he was, as I made my final movement onto objective. If I'd known he was that far back, I would have delayed it a bit and just synced up a bit more. At some point, so I'm trying to check to see whether we've got pink control yet. Otherwise, I'm going to get control of it from the north. I'm here to support as Wookiee breaches in onto the south side of pink. So pink is what I'm looking at now, these buildings. So as Wookiee comes in from the south, I'm there to support Wookiee. And if any enemies try to rotate onto him as he comes in, I'm there to help out. So that's my role at the moment. Not thinking about the objective yet. Checking where Cappy is. I'm going to clear there and then clear planter box. Planter box clear there. I see movement and someone going into the blue room. I'm not sure if you catch it on stream, but I see movement in there. So my goal is at this point, is to frag that blue room. I wasn't sure if that shadow was a person. It's like, So I've called to Wookiee whether he's got pink control. I'm ready to support him from the north if needed. Trying to get a good clearing position for blue. Again, checking that Wookiee's getting right into pink to give overwatch down onto objective. From pink, you can look down onto objective. You can take out players who are rotating around the objective. Worth noting how often I check the tablet. The frag into blue room. Smoke onto objective. Force a rotation. I don't think I fully noted at that point that we'd lost pink. As I pulled the tablet out there, I just noticed that we lost Wookiee. And so I didn't have my overwatch, which I thought I did. But there was still a green dot out there, so I thought that dot might have that overwatch. I should have checked, but I didn't want to make sound at this point. With that overwatch and the distraction of the smoke, I thought I'd get away with that, but I didn't.
One thing I want to point out that I think is really just useful for newer players is just like the methodical approach that you take to all of this. Because as you're walking through this, I think maybe for newer players, this might be kind of a revelation. Because as you're talking about this, you're just like, okay, I'm clearing here, I'm clearing there. Do you have any kind of system or anything like that you have for thinking about maps that maybe a newer player could benefit from?
You have in your mind the hotspots of where players could be based upon past encounters. You think about the positions which could take out your approach as you move in. So I've thought about blue room as a main zone to try to take me out. So to deal with blue room, I've put a frag into blue room, and B, there's a smoke blocking the blue room from seeing me as I come up from the south. The other danger to this approach here is someone in right on objective. This is where I thought I had some overwatch onto it, and I probably should have dealt with that a bit more from pink before dealing with doing this movement. I also thought I had Cappy in support, just to the west of the objective, through those windows. So I thought when Cappy's getting close, because you can't tell how far players are away when you pull your tablet up, and you have to just sort of rely. But I'd gone all the way around to pink, so to the northeast, and then back to objective, with Cappy just being in Kiot region. So I was thinking Cappy, by that amount of time, based upon how we're pacing out the round, should be at that point looking into objective building. He should be at objective building. As you go into tent, it's not in the POV, you see that Cappy is actually spaced back about 30 meters and he's still in Kiot. So something we need to work on, in terms of just ensuring our timing lines up. Something I need to do probably more of these in terms of what I think of, and then also get other people in the team to do what they think of as they're doing their approach, because there may be something I can do to support them more, and there may be something they can do to support me. So they might not know, getting overwatch from pink right now would be really helpful. Or James could actually clear that position from up there, and then I don't have to make this dangerous cross. So rambled on a little bit, but the main thing I'm thinking of is you always thinking of how you could make your approach easier later on. You're thinking about what your final approach is going to be, and then what can you do to weaken the defense so that your final approach is safer. That's pretty much what I do. Yeah.
Excellent. So, in other words, what you're looking for is ways to clear, and then you're expecting your teammates to be doing the same thing. So everybody is clearing for each other, and then when you make an attack, you have that final push onto the objective. Everybody is coordinated.
Yep.
Wise words. Players take note. All right, so this is going to go into my POV, which is basically opposite side of James on this round. I'm here, and then you can see James. That's actually James right here behind the planter box. Said we heard a flashbang, so we knew they were coming, and they started taking shots, and then immediately 404 just runs around the corner and shoots me, and you can actually see his teammate right over here too. All three of them pushed in right away.
It's a good breach, and it's one we've dealt with in the past. Like, it's a very... You're committing a lot to that breach with 3 men there, and if you can shut it down, if I can react up onto it as he comes through to support Theta, then we can shut it down. It's just a screw up, and then it cascades. You see this a lot. You lose one key position, and it just cascades through.
Exactly. I think this game, yeah, there's just like so many small little trigger points like that. Cascade starts, it's like you lose one person or one position doesn't get watched carefully enough or something like that, and boom, all of a sudden the round is over, the match is over, whatever. Like we saw it in yesterday's game that you and I were casting, very last play, just like one tiny little minute angle wasn't being watched on the objective, and it cost the Pandas match. Like, that's the kind of stuff that happens in this game. It's truly a game of details, which makes it so challenging.
Definitely.
On this round, I was just watching the South like we were talking about. They threw a smoke. I watched it for a while. I don't know if that came out on stream or not. They did not cross. Sorry, go ahead.
I think the key to take away from this is how long Theta held that. And he's still holding it now as he moves up. And you can commit someone to hold that, to hold a key cross for a minute. And do it. Hold that position. Because what that allows is, in this case, Deflate and Wookiee in the south, it allows them to get around, and then they will get to a position. By now, they'll be in a position where they're now holding that. So it's never not held by someone. And it means that those teams who do get away with those flanks onto you flanks can be devastating if they're not noticed correctly. So if you can give resource, especially within the first minute, to shut down those flanks, it's worth doing. There's no reason why Theta needs to be quicker getting into position with the route he takes. So he can take his time.
This one,
as long as
sorry,
as long as maybe someone else is watching the market. So Cappy's position would be stopping someone coming through the market onto Theta. So it's all, again, working together.
This one, I really wish that the cast had functioned correctly, because I'm not 100% sure where I got shot from. I was watching the market. I was watching Kiat. Thought I had some support coming from where Cappy was supposed to be. Then I come around this corner in a moment and just get popped. So there I'm checking positions. Again, as James mentioned before, you can't tell distances on that very well. But I know that we have people coming from all directions. I feel like, okay, market is probably being covered, at least the north side of it. Here. I think what happened was they sent a flanker into the market. I was about to make my way into the same little slit that I got killed from on the previous round. Watching very carefully, because these are common lines. Not making any noise, but I got spotted from somewhere. I think he might have been top story Kiat. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, you need to really make sure you get that Kiat control quicker. Well, I say you, I say... Whoa. Yeah.
And this one, I pushed a little too far. Thought I'd be able to catch anybody that was coming, and Brass just popped through that window. Killed me immediately.
So it's a defense variation we're working on, and we are still working on it. And it's about knowing where, when you're doing a pushed out D, you need to know where you can push to safely and at what point it becomes a dangerous cross, and that's just something we need to work on. And that's good. We learn, and by testing them out in proper matches, you do learn things. And next time, I know, Theta will have learned from that definitely.
So I will not be making that mistake. Since we have a slow moment here, question from the chat: favorite song or band?
I don't really have one. I'm not like, I like music. I love listening to music, but I've never been. I don't know. I've never really had like a passion for a particular song or band, and like I'll listen to anything really. Like if I'm doing work, I might listen to classical music. At other times, if I'm out actually in the workshop doing something which requires less concentration, I'll listen to just whatever's popular at the moment. I used to like a lot of dance electro sort of type stuff as like amp up stuff. When I played water polo, I'd listen to Prodigy before a match.
Oh, that's really taking it
Just
back.
depends on
Prodigy.
depends. Yeah, I know, right? Man, it used to amp me right up. It was great. It just depends on my mood a lot. That's a terrible answer, and I know people will be like, "Oh, I wanted to get a favorite band answer," but yeah, that is the answer, unfortunately.
Yeah, not everybody's music. It's fine. Wanted to slow down or stop the footage here because this was a pretty critical moment this round, and it's just such a highlight reel. Wookie knows people are coming right onto his position. He is just a magician. C4 gets 2.
I don't know how he survives this.
Yeah.
He got shot there.
That was so crazy.
I mean, I feel like he didn't know he was right there. He was kind
He gets shot, but he took 2 with it, so.
Expected to go with it, but man, staying alive there.
This we should have had this better locked down from here. 3v2 defense on this, it's still Volk favored. And the one thing you don't want to do is just lose one person. 2-man defense on this is not good. 3-man defense on it, you're pretty good. You've got someone, you can hold your front, your north and your south, and you've got someone who can adjust to help out when needed. So the key here is pretty much Deflator just needs to stay alive. He does a couple of movements which are too riskier, in my opinion. His position here is exposed. You always, when you're in a position, don't just look at your line, look around and think, where else am I exposed to? Do I want to be exposed to that zone? He's exposed to the south here. There is a line through from where that idiot is, roughly, where you can get a little peek through onto him. It's tight, but it's enough to identify a position, and then it ends up being enough to kill him. And then this movement here, we had this outside of the objective covered. He moves right out onto an exposed position where he could have got shot from the south. Trust your team, and then just work together. That's the things I'd say from that. I have communicated that I'm looking in, so that's why Cappy's not looking as critically in, and he's worried about someone around him. I think he said that he heard someone. But yeah, it's really about making sure you got that. Don't let them onto the objective for this one. I was also really worried about someone crawling through the center of the market because I couldn't fully see it, and so I called that out to Cappy to keep an eye on that. The prone straight through the center. There was a market stall which there was like a very specific line, but if someone had taken it, they technically could have capped that. So Deflate's not watching the south, but he's exposed himself to the south. If you watch, I rotate immediately straight after that. I have to rotate, and that's where a cascade could have occurred. Nintendo could have picked me as I rotated, and then Cappy would have gone down. They would have won the round. So, yeah, staying alive is critical. I would have rapid peaked that rather than slow peak, just based on the state of the game at the moment. Straight away, I've identified that it's only me up. The reason it took me a second to get off the mark there is because I've been shot and I had to heal myself. And I do a first clear check of the upstairs positions. I can't get through that position, which is annoying. So I want to clear upstairs, and I remember there's actually a corridor through. And I was like, oh, sweet. And then it's all just rotate. Smoke goes on the north side of objective now. You don't see it on the cast, but oh no, it must be on the next rotation. Yeah, in first person view. On the next loop, as it is next loop. So I did it 3 times in a row. I try to get through. That's come on, James. I'm going through smoke right now, and I just come out into the open right there, but I hear footsteps the other way. So that's footsteps, and then I think if he's pushing at the same time, someone's going to be capping the other side. I didn't hear them capping, but it was just it made sense to me that you'd push them both in at the same time. So yeah, I just check the other direction quickly because that's what I'd do if I had 2 up, same time in. One of them's going to get the cap. So it's just clearing that second position. I didn't mind if I died there because the critical thing there was Jigglez had 2 points. A death is another chance to win Bazaar. A cap is map over. So I really did not care if I died. Maybe I could have sent the code and disabled the objective. I felt like I had some chance of winning the round, so I didn't want to give up like that. But I think sending the code might have been a good option, to be honest, because that objective is just so hard to defend.
Surprised that we don't see more activation.
Yeah.
It's like if you have a really bad situation, like something, like might as well. So
yeah,
easy.
you're gonna die. You're not gonna defend it. Like the only reason I did it is I knew there were 1 or 2 up. I didn't know whether Cappy had traded, so I knew there was either 2, maybe 1 up. So I thought there's a chance.
Thing to take from that happy highlights, like you were saying with the state of the game, slow peaking is pretty much always a bad idea. Almost a situation where that works out. I'm sure there are corner cases I'm not, but by and large, you want to go fast around corners because you have the advantage. Take away.
Yeah, and the other thing to note on that is Cappy's right-handed. That's a right-hand turn corner. Right-hand turn corner slow peaking. You're exposing your shoulder a lot more before you get vision. If it's the other turn corner, you have a little bit more of a window to do it. That cross should never occur. That defense at higher levels, someone's going to be holding that line at the start. So you smoke that. So I've jumped into the next round. You smoke that cross, or you don't do it straight away, or you divert into that zone first and distract them before crossing. Things like that. My cross here, I've never seen someone in this position before, so it's a bit of complacency on my behalf. I will not do it like this before. I won't do it like this again. I don't tend to go east. What we were doing was a 4-1 split, and I like to be the 1. I don't know. I like being the 1.
Yeah, for anybody that's not aware, James enjoys being the last one up. He is a rare breed in that sense. Most people hate that pressure, especially casted matches, but James does it and he's very good at it.
Yeah, I like thinking through approaches, and that's the absolute having to think it through. And especially when you're last man up and there's like 2 or 3 people remaining, it's like, oh, there's a chance I can do this here. Like, and I've got all this information on where the attackers are based upon, or defenders are based upon gunshots, based upon call outs, all that sort of stuff. And it's piecing that puzzle together and just trying to slowly dismantle it one at a time. I love that challenge. So that's why I'll go as the 1 man. Ooh, how'd he get shot there? Nice shot through. Oh yeah.
Nintendo was just straight up terrorizing the Western attack.
Yeah, that's where you really want to get control of that zone. When you got a 4-man attack, you don't send all 4 around. You send a couple into this zone. It's something we need to work on. It's a new thing for us to try out. You really need to get control of this zone first. And even if it's just to distract Nintendo, or someone in Nintendo's position, you get control of that zone whilst you've got your team going around to the north. They can join up together again if they're needed, or they can remain split and do a pincer attack on objective. There are some really good lines onto objective through blue 2, which Theta might point out on the map. You can go blue 2 straight onto Kiot, or you can go full north and then come in through the north courtyard onto Kiot. And both of those directions are really powerful. So Nintendo's in blue 2 right now, what we call blue 2. where Wookie's at right now, I like this position. When I get to this point, generally, unfortunately, at the moment, it's with 5 defenders up, so it's not really the normal case. But if I get to that position where Wookie is now, I'm very happy. Attacking from getting to north control and attacking in makes me happy.
And since the West had gotten shut down, I had been watching the West courtyard, seeing if I could pick up the guy who was there being too aggressive, but Nintendo fell back. As you can see, he's just now hanging out kind of the north side. So I got on the radio, told Wookie, hey, I'm going to go around the south, hoping we could do some kind of pincer. And you can see that idiot, a.k.a. the man, was still floating around that area, and I had no idea that you had gone down over there.
I was hoping my body would be far enough behind that dumpster when you do see it on cast, that you would realize I was... Or do you see it on cast, or was it my POV on the tent? I don't know. That you'd realize that I died from the north rather than from the street to the west. But
Yeah.
I don't know if it was.
I ended up seeing your body, but it was a little late. I was kind of stuck. Well, I'm already over here. I was starting to run out of time.
Mm.
And see, I didn't realize that he had spotted me coming across.
Mm. He just spotted you.
Yeah,
Timing was
terrible timing for me. and he
did the right thing here. He knew you had to come out here and you just held it. Didn't try and push it on you. And then indeed. Ooh, nice hold point too. Looking under the Humvee.
Yep, it's good defense.
So 3-3. This round again, stuff I will never ever do again. This is my position I always play, and I never do this. How I die. I've also never seen Wookie die like this. Yeah.
Yeah, he immediately goes down, and I'm actually like I'm kind of frozen here. I'm over in this area, and I'm like, can I get Wookie up? Like, can I take that risk? And I ultimately decided not to because he had been taken out, and I saw or heard smokes coming from that area. Like, yeah, if I run out there, I'm going down too. It's just a really bad spot to have someone go down.
I got distracted by Wookie dying, and I thought, oh, maybe I could shoot the dude who got him. And then I put my head in that window, which I never put in. And I would have been able to at least suppress this cross, maybe get one through the smoke. I would have been alive to be on objective. Wow, that's some desync. And yeah, it would have been a lot different this round because they're down to three attackers here. We're at 2 + 2 halves.
There's the notorious moment.
Yeah. Right there, if Cappy had not shot Deflate, we would have had 3 defenders up against 2 attackers. So that round, we could easily have won it. And those attackers were disjointed as well, the last 2. So yeah, just unfortunate.
Yeah, and I mean, I know I made a video about it and everything, but truly that was the game not working out for us. That was more than anything. It was just the game freaking Cappy there. That was just, it happened so fast. I can tell you as a participant of it, it was just like, it was like a whole 2 seconds that whole thing happened. Yeah. So easy to laugh
Cappy
about.
came into tent and we told him what had happened. He's like, no, it didn't. We're like, yeah, that he had no idea. It just all happened at once, and he had no idea that he'd revived an enemy.
Yep.
Here, Deflator's never run this attack before. He overexposes himself at the top of the stairs. So normally I have Potato, and then more recently Wookie. Sorry, not Wookie, Mono, running point on here. And that's a common approach, and you don't want to expose much to that person. You exposed full torso, person came around the corner, easy target identification, snapped onto him. I got flashed. How did my frag not get him? Interesting. I got flashed there, and yeah, got killed during the flash.
Yeah, this was a bit ugly. So we knew we were getting shut down right here. We needed to rotate.
I wouldn't. and I said this in the tent during this, I wouldn't have both gone tunnels. Tunnels is a very constricted approach, and you're very limited on what you can do from there. I would potentially have split up and maybe one overpass, maybe one north, or maybe one just holding here for a while,
Yeah.
and then the other one north. Both going tunnels, a bit of foreshadowing, but yeah, you're constricted all the way up to the objective with openings coming onto you, and up until the point where you get to crossing that that alley which runs north to south, just outside, just near the tunnel exit. Up until that point, there's no other directions for you to go than all the way back, and there's multiple places to clear. So it's hard. Also, it went, I think, going slow from here. I think you went slow from like here and used like 2 minutes to get up there. Would probably have gone quicker. They're gonna, with they hear you coming or not, they're gonna be watching it. So getting sneaky, I don't know. I know there's some aspect where you want to not make noise, but generally they're going to be watching it whether you're being sneaky or not. A good team. And so for the next 2 minutes, this is the case.
See, I'll skip it a little bit. So, oh, yeah. So come up here. So we don't have to watch this.
So that started at 4 minutes left. 4 minutes and something seconds left was the start of the sneakiness, and that's 2 minutes gone. And someone's going to be in Biggie Small's position. 3/4 of the time, probably even higher than that. That is a very common spot. I would have used some utility maybe, or I would have pre-fired it. Again, slow peek, you're dead. You slow peek that, you're dead. Here's established line from a position of darkness. Theta does probably a better clear. He goes a bit quicker and takes a step back from the corner. When you're really close to a corner, as you peek out, you expose more of your shoulder before you see. It's probably a good point to make. It's all about angles. If you're close to something and you peek out, you see a lot of shoulder before you actually get your vision around it. If you're far back from something, which was where Theta did it from, there's less exposure before the point at which you see. Less angle exposure, if that makes sense.
And for anybody who's new to the channel or anything, I actually have a whole video about how to handle corners, and it's almost verbatim what he's talking about. So you can see Cappy comes here, and just a moment he's about to crouch, and then he checks, and see, as he's coming across this line, you can see it right about here, believe it or not. So the line is, somebody's already watching, and his shoulder, his arm is already just about to touch that laser. He's so close to that corner that...
Yeah, and that's quite far out from the corner, that laser.
Yeah.
Like, you can see how much of the shoulder is exposed compared to... So you got parallel lasers there. You can see the difference. Yeah.
And so he gets killed.
So Cappy did a good thing by clearing. Initially he cleared to the north of him because there's a little alcove there. And you see immediately Theta does the probably more correct corner clear here, in my opinion, where he steps back, right back from the corner, and then around. Yep.
Yeah, so that was one thing for any of the newer players out there. This is one practice that almost immediately improved my play, was whenever I found myself near a corner, I would just say, get away from the corner. It was almost like I was playing, what's that called, that kid's game, like Don't Step on the Lava or whatever. That's how I felt about corners. So if you find yourself touching a corner and you have space behind you, just start pushing away from it and then rotating around it. It's called slicing the pie. Again, I talk about this in one of my videos, but it just makes your life so much easier because you are much, much easier to kill if you're right on the corner. So I get that kill, but I also realized, to your point, James, a little too late, that I was getting funneled into this spot, and I was just basically trapped if I stayed there. So I looked at my watch and said, okay, maybe I can make it if I run up to the horseshoe, because then at least I've got some options. But it was too late. It was way too late. Let's go up here because I run the horseshoe, and then I get spotted immediately as I come out. I had to make a lot of noise, too, because I couldn't sneak anymore. So time management, it's a struggle, even at master level. And you have to make good choices earlier in the map. Like, that was set up by the fact that Cappy and I decided to go through the tunnels instead of doing horseshoe initially, like what James was talking about. So this one, basically...
So this one here, Cappy didn't know his position he was meant to be in. So we lose him straight away. You can see he's gone all the way down to the tunnel and then be like, oh, wait, whoops a minute. And then he's crossed back over a danger zone and died. Yeah, bit of practice needed on that one. They keep pushing through. Wookie was concentrating on C4, and then, oh crap, there's a guy on him. He does very well here. We didn't clean up Wookie's kill, but we didn't know that Wookie had traded, so we thought someone was watching that entrance. I, at this point, am calling out adjustments. We've lost 2 dudes from the southeast approach. I can't stay in my normal position because if they get that southeast, if they get this entrance, which is shown just off to the right of the screen, they can shoot my normal position. So I instead drop back onto, there's a wall where I'm sitting. They talk about in the cast being not ideal, but if you play it right, there's a good spot where you don't expose yourself to the north, and there's got the sort of line through. So I can watch that little line through, and also I can flick onto the north, and I check the north every now and then, but I don't have to expose myself to the north, which is key. So I hit that idiot before he got to Biggie. Unfortunately, I didn't kill him because that could have been the round right there. But I do get Biggie there. Same line through. It's a hard one for the attacks to deal with because there's so much going on through, and you just have to watch one little line. Nice. And then this just goes through. So I've called. There was a bit of pushing out by our defense at times during that, and I've said, look, 3v1, hold your lines, come back, hold the objective, because if you push out and you get picked, especially on this, they can rotate and come in from another direction. We don't have any ability to refrag. We haven't forced them to waste time to come to work their way towards objective. All of those sort of things. So staying more compressed and holding your lines, especially once you're 3v1 up on defense, that's the time. So many teams you see, they're up. They're like, they got 4 defenders up against 1. They're like, or 3 defenders up, whatever. And they go, oh, we're just going to go and find this last guy, and then they lose 1. Then they lose another, and then it's 2v1, and it's like, and then they're having to rotate back to objective, and they might lose another. I've seen so many rounds turn around like that. We love North Objective.
Yeah, North Objective is the Mayhem specialty. Also, by the way, thank you for the follow, Frozen Slacker. Appreciate it. But this is the objective that we have the most fun on, I think, and most highlights from.
And we don't often, you see North Objective as just a balls out push, and you just go. You don't have to run it like that. You can run it like that, and we sometimes run it like that, but also sometimes we just wait. I was on security detail because a flanker is often done, and I killed a flanker. That slowed Wookie down a bit, waiting for Deflade to get back in position to support him. That probably helped a bit. And then, yeah, that flash and clear, perfect.
Once again, seeing the power of a fast corner push. Because even though 404 was watching that angle, Deflade just ran around that corner, and there's not a whole lot you can do to stop it with the way this game meta is structured at the moment.
So some teams will go down here with like 2 M249s and just constant fire suppressing. I don't know. I prefer the more, methodical, clear, and only shoot when you actually see something type approach. But different ways of doing it. As soon as someone's peeking a corner like that, that tells you they don't have anyone else really watching that objective. We've cleared the other 2 positions with frags. Down and confirm straight away. As soon as that shot goes off, I'm getting up. Because we know that the last guy is more than likely going to be in the south, and its time is critical there. It's all about getting that cap as quick as possible.
Cappy and I were in the
See what
south, but you guys did all the work in the north.
This objective I have 3 frags. Sometimes I get more, depending on how generous teammates are. I have 3 this one. This flash here, critical. Deflate's flashes, they just slow them down enough. Unfortunately, Deflate here has had to run through smoke, and smoke at the moment blinds you, even past the point where you're exposed, which is not ideal. So I'm throwing blind at the moment, but I know they'll be close. They make a mistake there. That last frag, the reason I threw it short is because Brass said, or someone said to Deflate's body, and stay down. And I was like, ooh, that was close. So I threw my frag close rather than far. So, not giving away information unless you have to, yelling things like that is a good idea.
Yeah, I know some players that like to, for lack of a better term, talk trash or just taunt people as they play. Personally, I don't really like the image that gives off. I'm not really into that. But on top of it, it's free information. Like you said, it gets you killed. So usually the best idea is to just not say anything. Even if somebody is trying to taunt you and get you to say something and talk back to them, it's better to just keep your mouth shut because you can use that information against them. Don't feed them something for free.
If they hadn't done that, I reckon they would have capped. I reckon they would have killed me. If they hadn't done that, I would have thrown my frag long and not been ready for them being literally right on me. I would have died without killing either of them. They would have had 2 up to take out Wookiee, and then it would have been a cap. So that's what that comment cost them. Downfall first round. Again, we're a bit rusty on downfall. We just overpeak and we lose a couple of people, and that forces rotations and that forces a lack of cover at the objective. There's certain locations which it's nice to have them up for the end game rather than have them get picks. If you can have someone in Brothel, for example, for the end game, then you can stop them coming up that hill, because that hill's really hard to defend from the top. You have to way overexpose yourself in order to look down that hill, and you'll see what happens. So having someone alive in Wookiee or Deflate's position rather than having them peek out is really powerful. Deflate's position at the moment is that one in the southwest, we call it the Brothel. I think that's a common call out. Data's position as well is more of a stay alive type position as well. He doesn't have to engage far out. We were ready for this push in through here. Yeah, that was just a free kill.
Yeah, to answer your question, Apollo, what about if they called you out, then you call them out? Can you do some banter then? I don't know. I think you're at that point, you're still just giving them information. And if you're talking, you're not hearing footsteps, you're not hearing anything on the radio. Frankly, doing your team a disservice. Do that.
Yep. If you're quiet, you could have moved. You could have rotated and be sneaking around them. They're like, "Ooh, I don't know if that's occurred." They're worried about it. If you're talking, they're like, "That person's exactly there. Oh, that person's still there because he's talking to me still. Ah, brilliant.
Yep.
I can do stuff with them."
Oh,
whoa.
Brass picked me off. That was a hell of a shot, and that was, I believe, the only time I looked over there because somebody had just called him out. So to James's point, like, I got killed on the objective. That was a critical loss. You could argue that was kind of the beginning of what ended up happening at the end of this round. So if you have an angle like that, most of the time if you watch me on this one, I'm just watching towards Marsoc because I'm looking at people that have spawned. I want to see if anybody's running around up there. And my job is not to peek or kill people. It's just basically be an early warning device.
Yeah. So it means I have to expose myself a bit to watch it. It's not ideal. Definitely gets him in the end.
And that's a good point, too, because if you die, then all of a sudden there's a greater risk burden on the rest of your team. Oh, it's not just you that's being affected, it's everybody, because now they have to adjust to the fact that you're dead because you peaked too early. You don't want to be that guy.
Deflade got drawn in by the distraction. Again, Deflade, he knows his position, and he won't do this like this again. He knows that it's better for him to be up to watch the objective late round. And they know that if they pick him, they've opened up this objective. That's why they're concentrating on him so much. because that pick is just like, oh, such a good pick. If you kill the person in there, you're happy.
That idiot does manage to pick up Defilade in the end, and that is going to even things out yet again. Blow for blow, trade for trade in this first round.
At this point, I'm ready to rotate onto objective. Having with Wookiee up, we're okay. And I'm still worried about that northwest push in. But as we get into this point in the round, you need to have someone on objective.
Laser trained out over towards.
What does the team need?
No, Matt, I see your question in the chat. We will answer that in a moment. I just want to cover this last bit of the round.
Scoop up Wookiee, bringing things into an offensive advantage.
And so Wookiee goes down, and just like James was saying, like now teammates have to make adjustments, and Nintendo starts his attack on the objective. James and Cappy now directly on Helicopter Bungalow.
Yeah, we didn't have an established defense to cover this. Probably what we'll do next time is we'd have someone go wide onto West Road and then look across from West Road. Their line they took there is well practiced, and it's a great line. What they did there was great. They didn't come straight up the hill. They went wide, and it was not a line we could see. It was well played, and we learned a lot from that.
Yeah, it's an excellent play.
Yeah. I'll definitely next time I'll push down, or the other person will probably push down West Street instead and be able to look across that from that first little bulge of the wall.
Just a quick pause here, since we are doing Q&A, and if anybody has other questions, just feel free to drop them in the chat. But I want to hear your answer on this because you're in a leadership position. So Nomad VR asks, what does a team need to do when they feel they hit the wall?
What do you mean, like hit? Yeah, I'm trying to think what you actually mean by hit the wall in the context of a Onward, in terms of like you've lost a couple of rounds and you're feeling like you need to regroup. Is that what you're sort of getting at?
Well, if Nomad, if you're still here, if you could clarify, that would be fantastic. In the meantime, I would assume that he means sort of like a plateau, like maybe you're not winning matches that you think you should win. You're not sure how to change your practices or anything like that to overcome that.
Yeah. And you see a lot of teams doing that, and then what they do is they practice more and they scrim more and they put more and more hours in, and they're not actually making any progress, and you end up just actually not enjoying the game. And we got to that point in season 7. We regrouped entirely before we became okay, I see that clarification. And that's why we sort of rebranded. We haven't, so for us, we haven't really practiced since season 7. That's not something I'm advocating, and that's the reason we can do that is because we do some stuff outside of game, and we also have people who will do analysis outside of game and come up with strats outside of game, and and then give those translate those strats in the tent and explain them and all that sort of stuff. Other than that, you do need getting some practice is really important because you need to figure out whether those strats actually work. So what do you do if you actually hit the wall? You're doing all that sort of stuff and you hit the wall. I'll spend some time looking at other teams, how they play it, and see whether there's something which you could learn from them. I'd also see whether there's a theme, like are you losing because you're over peaking? Are you losing more because you're getting capped on, so you don't have good cover of the objective? You really need to be very self-critical to go in and actually really try and figure out what's gone wrong. Even when you win, how could you have done it better? After every match, and I've thought over this match a lot already. I'll think about it when I go to bed. And there's why do I do that, and what can I do next time, and how will I play that through? In terms of how you deal with it, so how does that translate into leaderboard? So yeah, some aspect is just there is a bit of practice you need to do, but don't over practice. If you're practicing the wrong thing, that can be really bad. And if you're practicing to the point where you don't enjoy the game anymore, that can also be bad. Oh, the stream just paused. All right.
It's back.
So it's so make sure you're still enjoying the game, because enjoyment and working as a team is really critical. You need to be able to ensure that you're still having fun as a team, because there's so much teamwork involved in this game. Now, in terms of how you do it mid-match, if you've more hit a wall in terms of like mentally or something, like during the match, you've gotten down about something, which does happen a lot. Like you've just lost map 1 because you got capped on the last round when you were 3-2 up, and did something stupid, and that can be a massive mental blow. And you do need to make sure that you can move past that, and that's hard. It's really hard to do. We get a bit snarky in the tent. I get snarky, definitely, after things like that, and I shouldn't, and I know that I shouldn't, but I still do. Sometimes it's better to just make a couple of those snarky comments, say them, then move on. Move on. Think about the next round. If you absolutely need to, take a timeout or get a new player in or do something to mix it up. But the main thing is forget about that previous round. Forget about. There's nothing you can do about it anymore. It's done. Look forward to the next one. Hopefully, there's something useful in that monologue.
One
Not
thing
sure.
I would add to that is everything James just said. The only addition to that is usually the things that are holding you back are a lot more fundamental than you might think. I think a lot of newer players, and this isn't just true in Onward, this is true in any competitive game, they tend to create more layers of complexity, and they think that's going to be it. Like, oh, I need to learn this new spot, or like this new technique, or I need to start using a different weapon. When in reality, it's probably something a lot more simple than that. And in fact, I think as you get better, you start to have an even more simplified view of things because you learn to distill what really matters. Something, James, you and I were kind of talking about before, engineering work. But at the end of the day, maybe it's like you don't handle corners very well, or maybe you make crosses you shouldn't make. I mean, it could really be something that simple, but you're just doing it over and over again, and it's costing you in ways you're not recognizing. So I think it takes a little bit of an ego check, step back and say, well, I'm doing this kind of basic thing incorrectly. So if you have footage of you playing, I would suggest going over it, take the notes that James gave you, and think about that as well as like, what are the more fundamental basic things I'm not doing correctly here, and try to address that.
That sort of feeds into another thing Theta and I have been speaking about, which is like liking casts. Like Mayhem love casts. We love getting casts. Yes, there's an aspect of giving away your positions and strats, but people know that there are only so many positions. There are some little sneaky positions which could be useful once, but overall they're sneaky and they're not used often because there's some aspect to them which is not useful. So it might be that it's dangerous to get there, or once you're identified there, it's hard to get out, or something like that. But by getting cast, you can see how the whole team is working together. So I'm look back at cast, and I'm not learning really anything about the enemy here. When I'm watching cast, I'm learning about what the rest of the team is doing and how I can work more as part of the team going forward. Or whether I can, suggest to someone like, hey, Skyjoker, if you watch this as I do this, or if you suppress that as I do this, it would really help me out. And you don't know what they're doing until you actually see it. And one good way of seeing it is on cast. So that's why, that's why even at high level, I like that, having that cast. That makes sense. Some teams don't. Just this little side point.
That's fantastic insights. I hope you guys were all that and taking notes correctly. Yeah, it's a co-captain of Mayhem. So that should carry some weight, I think. On Mayhem. Anyway, let's get into this round. And so we're just real quick. So just to kind of talk about that previous point, in terms of hitting the wall, so to speak. We hit the wall all the time in matches, and then we come back. Like, I think that is one of our better skills, is that we get into situations where most teams will be just crushed morale-wise, and we come back. You see it in a lot of our games, especially if you want to go back and watch one that I would consider kind of a Mayhem classic. It would be Ember versus Mayhem, is our last game of the regular season last season, and we were down on the deciding map 3-1. We came back, and we've had lots of situations like that. So just know, if you can keep yourself calm and stay out of that whirlpool of tilt, you can still play very well, and it takes time and experience to do that, but it's possible. Yeah. It's not over until it's over. Always remind yourself of that. So here we're...
This map here is a really good example of it. Yep. Downfall, traditionally, and it is very Volk favored. You've just lost your Volk round to a cap on the first round of Downfall. So if you lost your Volk advantage, they're up 2-0 on Downfall. They just have to hold 2 more Volk rounds, which they're going to get, and they've won. This is like, oh, wow. And then, for me personally, I just died in the first 20 seconds. I'm like, crap, this is our one round we really need to perform, and I've gone and died in the first 20 seconds. I've got to get that out of my head. Like, that's a massive blow. I'm like, idiot, why did I pick that hill? I'm dead. And so I sat in 10th for about a minute going, oh, I'm an idiot. And then watched the round and looked forward to the next one, sort of thing.
Lion Cake says, managing fatigue on map 3 is hard. I've noticed myself making weird decisions on map 3. Yeah, that's very common. Especially, like, Onward games take a while. If you watch other esports like CSGO and all that, I mean, their rounds are, if I remember correctly, 2 minutes, something like that. So, I mean, you're just going really fast all the time, whereas in Onward, 6-minute rounds over and over again. A match is like 2 hours. It's very easy to get fatigued by the end of that, especially if it's been intense the whole time and it's on the deciding map and, like, against a really good team. Yeah, it just drains you. So that's another sort of metagame skill, in my opinion, is managing that.
So you can see here we're getting a north-south encirclement. Deflator's a sniper, that's why he's pushed out in the northeast. And Skyjoker, because we spawn north, Skyjoker doesn't have as far to go, and so can hold his position a bit more. He doesn't want to be pushing in before Wookie and Theta do. So Wookie and Theta need to work really well together here. Make sure they clear, suppress, move together.
Yeah, this one.
One thing which maybe should have, one thing here is, and we'll definitely look for it more, is there potentially should have been able to spot the helicopter. I think if we'd been specifically looking for it, then it would have been spotted, because he does move a bit. I know it's hard to see him when he's not moving, but he does move a little bit. So I know next time Theta won't miss him, and that person will be dead. Very hard to spot, obviously, when you're in the headset. Not quite as zoomed in as that.
That was more on me. I was not looking specifically at helicopter. It's become more of a meta spot, but I think traditionally people have stayed off of the helicopter, at least the games I've played at this level. But I think more people...
There was a long period where it was used, and then it became unused because the fire didn't align with where the fire was, so you'd end up burning to death without knowing it. And then now there is no fire, so and there's also an ability to rotate through it and all that sort of stuff. So I expect it'll get used a bit more. But one of those spots there, if you know there's someone there, you can clear it quite effectively. As you can see from Theta's position, that's an effective clearing spot for it. Unfortunately, the helicopter was called out, and there was ability for the south to clear it and deflate overexposed before it had been cleared. So it should have been, he should have waited until it was cleared from the south first.
That's it. I told Wookie to shoot an M23 into that window. He told me he didn't hear that all the way. Maybe it was my mic or something. And either way, that idiot rotated away, so it wouldn't be effective.
He needed that M203 for later.
He almost gets picked right there.
Yeah, Skyjoker was ready for that. So yeah, Brass shoots. But Wookie was already moving to take Brass out because he'd been called out on the helicopter. So if Deflated just stuck back for a little bit. We got some confirm that the shots were coming onto helicopter. That could have worked. Confirm your kills. Looks like Wookie's trying to, but misses. Hard to do against the helicopter. The body could have flown off, all that sort of stuff.
Nintendo makes the same mistake that I made. Subject peaked too early. I was on a slightly further forward position than Brass was when he hit me, but at that point, really no reason to be peeking like that. I pick him off. This one's a little frustrating because I look at the window and I didn't see him.
So dark.
Yeah, it's just so hard to spot somebody in there. I thought it was safe. I saw Wookie running up. I was like, all right, should be okay crossing here.
See, Wookie's being called out by Brass here. This is where confirming that kill would be useful. Sky Joker, personally, my line is to go a lot wider than that. There was an M203 to down the man, that idiot there. Good confirm by Sky Joker. I would have gone wider. He hits Biggie a couple of times there, which is very important, as you'll see from the end round. The fact that Biggie's body armor is zeroed out right now, and Wookie managed to take one hit, means that the trade goes the way of Wookie there.
That's another.
So it was really important that Sky Joker zeroed out his body armor then.
Another example of cascading. It's just like that one thing led to another. He had that exchange with Sky Joker. Sky Joker didn't kill him, but he weakened him just enough that Wookie ends up winning a trade. Little things like that seem to be the deciders.
We came into this round really quick because we all readied up. I was meant to not ready up because of the whole like team chat thing. We just said start when we're ready. We all readied up and they started the round. I was like, oh crap. So I hadn't actually gone over positions. Probably wouldn't run Deflate in his position. It does work out really well, but it is also, if they do identify you're in there, then it's very hard to rotate out of and very easy to clear. But he kills a bunch. I thought the other critical thing on this is losing Sky Joker for two reasons. One, I thought, oh man. Sorry, I bumped my. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So losing Sky Joker was through a drop, resulted in two things which could have really badly impacted us. One, we lost a player in a critical position where I really wanted to because it weakens our eastern defense. And two, I thought that they'd killed Sky Joker, and I liked that. The reason I liked that is because it made me think that they thought that they'd cleared that building. So I thought they'd be complacent about me being there. Because it'd be unusual to have two. So I was like, oh, they've killed the one there. They're not going to be ready for me. So I stayed after Sky Joker was dead. I stayed much more compressed back, ready to surprise them instead of being, just being there.
Also, it just warms my heart anytime Sky Joker dies in general.
So yeah, from my position, I can watch 4-4 and also Wookie's position. This is a really common approach because you can get really close to the objective and get into that basement without, and then get a cap on. So we're ready for that approach.
Comes the rest of the pressure from this Jigglez team. Nintendo almost catching the wrath of James as he peeks the corner.
Oh, I'm just missed Nintendo there. Those smokes, if those smokes had gone out before 404 went in, that would have been a lot harder to stop because Wookie wouldn't have seen him. Jesus, just a big C4 going off. Should have repeat that. They were ready for me anyways. That's good. So definitely, as soon as he gets identified, better just stay alive more. Especially with Sky Joker dead. Because when we lose Defilade, they just keep peeking him, which is rookie. As soon as we lose Defilade, though, our eastern approach is really, really weak. And I call it out that I need support. Because I know that if I die, they can be capping 2 seconds later. So this round could easily have gone to Jigglez. So I've called out here for Theta to rotate around. I didn't explain the full reasoning, and it was a very dangerous rotation. But I wanted to call it out early so he could take his time rotating around because I didn't want him just rushing through the open. So I said, get around so you got vision on the east side. But I think I said take your time. I said something during the game. Yeah. So and by take your time, I was meaning stay low, use those walls, get around so that you can help support me, within a couple of seconds. Because if Brass had picked me here, that would have been the round. That would have been the map. That would have been the match. Match entirely over. So cap here, I didn't want to cap, so I wanted to make sure we had positions. I didn't care if we died too much. Obviously, you don't want to die, but a cap was way worse. So that's why I'd called that out. And that's something which we'll adjust for next time because it's really understanding the criticality of why a call out's occurred. And I didn't portray that adequately, obviously.
Added more for the follows. But at this point, I knew Wookie had gone down, and I figured that he would just rush straight to the back helicopter 2-story because he's so limited on time. But instead, he ran out. Actually, hear me on cast say he scared the shit out of me because I wasn't expecting him to run to the west road. I thought he was just going to go straight into the objective building.
At that point, I've also moved off position. So you can see so one thing to note before that round started is they heard our spawn. So they knew we'd spawn in the south and they chucked some smokes out. However, you cannot make it to create a building safely if we have that spawn. It's hard to hit that shot, but you can hit that shot. So I managed to pick one out. And I also see, so look at the end of this round, which quickly show the, you see that I've already rotated.
See it again.
So end of this round, you see me moving out of my building as soon as Wookie dies. That's so that I can cover that basement entrance because if he gets in that basement, he's capped before I can do anything about it. But Theta kills him, fortunately. Start of the next round. They know our spawn. Crater building's dangerous to get to. But they take the line which is safer for them to take to get to West Red Truck. So 404 makes it to West Red Truck. That line you wouldn't normally take if you get the northeast spawn because you can get spotted and killed before you get there. So, yeah, fortunately I get the pick on Crater and I call that out. I call out Crater and what that means because Crater is a critical spot for spotting the helicopter approach, which is a common approach onto objective. So I call out, at this point in time in the cast, I call out, I've killed Crater and confirmed. And the helicopter approach is more open. I saw 404 going east from objective, so I know that he's either probably in West Red Truck, maybe in East Red Truck, less common, and the third potential option, based upon them knowing that we spawn south, is that he's gone North Hotel. And those are my order of priorities of likelihood. Most likely West Red Truck, because you can see objective. Less likely East Red Truck, but also could be a good flanking position. And then really less likely, because it's pushed out, but also potential, is North Hotel. And so as I move through, I'm clearing those three in reverse order. North Hotel, East Red Truck, and then eventually West Red Truck. I'm working with... Oh, it's gone paused. And I just line up with Skydroke in the north, and we make our way down that common sort of northern line of houses.
So once again, just showcasing the way that you think about this stuff. It's thinking through like the most critical points to clear what your teammates are going to be clearing and then coordinating that all in your heads. Creating a path. It's like pathfinding, basically.
Another common spot, well, less common, but again, potentially common because I know they knew our spawn, is that they could have gone into North Bungalow from the backside. That would have been a really powerful spot for them to get into. So that person who went east, I know it's only one, because I held that line long enough to know that no one else is going to make that movement after that point. That person east also could have gone north bungalow. I forgot about mentioning that as one of the spots. So that's the first one I clear. And he would be in the north side of north bungalow. He wasn't going to come around to the south side because we're all on the south. He'd be in that north room of north bungalow. Wookie and Theta just get a little bit disjointed here on their movements. But overall, they're working as a team, clearing through. This south approach is hard, but really powerful and worth having.
You knew that Nintendo was there. We were both taking shots at him. So figured there was at least one in center hotel because they in center hotel. It's just it's so hard to deal with that cross. Somebody's in Nintendo's position, like we can throw smokes and that sort of thing.
So at this point, I know the defender's either in this building or on the west side of this building. So they say on the cast that I would have got a surprise from this. No, I knew the guy was somewhere on this building. He's either upstairs, downstairs, or on the west side. But I know that he's not going to come out on me, and I know if he comes out on me, Skyjoker's going to get him. So that's why I'm not worried about it. I do overexpose myself to Center Hotel. I probably could have died to it. Something I'll adjust next time. I'm standing in the open there. Not ideal. Checking tablet. Classic. Data's called out Center Hotel at this point. That's key. The call-outs in this round were key.
Well, the mistake on my part was I thought that was the only person in Center Hotel. I figured it was probably that idiot hanging out right there. It turned out it was Brass to Mouth. So I give a call out for that. And my next priority is to clear Nintendo from that bottom story of Helicopter 2 story. He'd been shooting at us earlier, and then I saw him shoot again. I thought I'd be able to pick him.
Very unusual to commit to Center Hotel. It's incredibly far off objective.
So he just pops out and shoots me after I tried taking a shot at Nintendo.
Yeah. So we've identified Center Hotel 100% at this point. Theta's called it out. We know that Nintendo is in the objective looking south, and we know that there's one in West Red Truck Building. We know the three positions. 100% know the three positions, and we know that there's only 3 enemies up. This is where you need a little bit of, I can't call out to Deflade what I'm doing, so you need to sort of be able to read people's minds a little bit, and it's very hard to do because he can't see me. He has to be thinking the same thing, and it's not going to occur 9 times out of 10. But I was hoping he had Overwatch on me here, because there were 3 up, and I knew that the only danger was Nintendo hooking onto me, and he's more likely to hook on from the north, so Deflade should be able to shoot him before he gets to me. Deflade, unfortunately, has come off his Overwatch position, so it doesn't shoot him before he gets to me. Luckily, I get it in. I mistype the code, have to find the clear button, press clear, retype the code, get it in time. Luckily. But what should have probably occurred there is we had a really clear kill count. There were no trade opportunities during that. And so it should have been a pick onto Nintendo as he came around that north side, because we knew the last guy was Center Hotel, so like way off objective. And that's something I'd change for next time.
That's the end of the match, so I'm going to switch off of the analysis view. So just overall, what do you think were the big takeaways from that match, James?
Bazaar, it's just, it reconfirmed how important it is not exposing yourself to certain positions, and for me personally, and also for the team. So we just need I don't think we need to do major adjustments on Bazaar, and Theta and I were talking about this before. But just some minor ones would make a lot of difference on Bazaar. Subway, we're solid on Subway. A couple of things to learn in terms of a couple of positions we ran, which would adjust certainly that first round, and how you can get trapped in certain zones, and how you clear in corners and all that sort of stuff. And also in the second round as well, knowing your position so you're not crossing danger areas back. Other than that, Subway, it was pretty solid. Not too much to change or learn too much from there. Downfall, I I've always been worried about that objective, but now I'm sort of more worried, and it's just more about reaffirming the importance of being alive for the end game in certain positions, and maybe having other positions be the ones which are engaging. Because if you can get those end, those last 30-second positions, if they can still be live for the last 30 seconds, you're in a much better spot. What else happened on Downfall? I overpeaked the hill personally. That's fine. I just need to, at some point, come off that. Know when they can. The only reason I got shot there is because he got the roof of Center Hotel. I was clear to everything else. So I need to know the point at which they can have roof control at Center Hotel. And then by then I'm out of there. You spotted the Pandemonium logo? Cool. Yeah. How about you, Theta? What do you take away from that?
Yeah, I think the big one for me was Bazaar. Subway, I got one kill, I think, the whole time, just because I was not positioned to do much damage on the other rounds. I was just in the south, both of the big rounds, and you guys were basically just nading everybody into oblivion. But Bazaar, definitely I need to reconsider some of my positions. And some of the clearing in the south, too, especially the subway, or excuse me, the helicopter. South and Downfall, something I'm thinking about. But also, I think it was just a lesson in make sure you estimate anybody. I think we were pretty good about that. But it's also just kind of hard to get away from the expectation of like, all right, this team hasn't played in a long time, ever. So it's natural to kind of relax a little bit. And I think we did a fantastic job of saying, all right, look, they may not have played for a while, but we're taking this seriously. Even after a really bad Bazaar in some ways, came back and fought back for a while. Again, we're really good at, but we need to get to the point where we're not having to come back. Key.
Yep, definitely.
All right, so I'm going to open it up for questions for the Q&A completely. Got a pretty stable viewer count, so thank you to everybody that showed up. Started out, Apollo has a couple of questions. Anybody else wants to type any more in while we're answering this, we'll do that. We'll just go as long as there are questions, and maybe that's a few minutes, maybe. I don't know. We'll find out. First question is, what's your favorite board/video game that's not on?
Ooh. Board game. It's a good board game to have at night. With friends and stuff. What am I a fan of? Cranium's a good one to play with friends. A bit of a knowledge aspect, but also like a bit of banter. There's some good ones with like I've forgotten the name of all of them. The one where you have to write down the same thing as your partner and all that sort of stuff. Good sort of like group sort of board games like that. Yeah, probably the good ones where it's sort of more of a group participation rather than playing as an individual. If I want to play a board game, I want it to be more of a social thing. And in terms of video game, I don't know. I'm a huge fan of EFT. I don't play it much. I just like the format, and it's the dream of there being an EFT in VR. That's probably more of why I like it. Haven't played pancake games too much. I don't have time. I've got time for one game. That's it.
EFT.
Yeah.
I'm actually drawing a blank on
Escape from Tarkov. Sorry.
Right. Yeah, dude, Tarkov, the sound design on that is what blows my mind more than anything. Just like all the little sounds, like your clothes, click the laser, the little button on there. It's just incredible. And I wish they would make
that sort of immersion, because that game's immersive and it's a pancake game. If they had that immersion in a VR game, man, they can just take my money on that. Any other games? I enjoyed Elite Dangerous in VR. I played that a little bit in VR. That was good fun. I think there's some cool sort of flight simulator ones, but they're games which you have to commit a decent chunk of time to, and I just don't have that. I don't even play Onward that much anymore. I come on for matches. I try and get into a couple of SFTs if possible, but yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, other than that, good way to deal with victory disease. What's victory disease?
It's something I've talked about in some of my videos. Just to clarify, victory disease is, let's just say you really dominant first map, or maybe you lost the first map, you're really dominant in the second one. Like, all right, we're definitely going to get this, and then you kind of relax and end up. So kind of like the idea that you're right at the precipice of victory, and then you relax, and then you end up losing.
Yeah.
As a result of that.
That's certainly, and that's something we Mayhem definitely do. Not to that aspect, not with to the point where we've lost one then won one, because you haven't won. But certainly when we win the first 2 maps, we relax for the last, which you shouldn't, because it is still important to get that last map victory for MMR and stuff, and something we need to work on. But I don't think I ever really get too complacent about stuff, except probably in that scenario where we have actually won the match entirely. But if you've not won the match, anything can happen. So I don't really know how to give guidance on how to deal with that. Sorry.
I think that one, just from my perspective, comes from experience. Like, as I was talking about earlier, we both talking about, we're really good at dealing with situations where maybe other people would give up. But I think it's because we're just confident, not just in ourselves, but in our team as a unit. We know we can go into these situations and still win. If you're a newer player, it's kind of hard to have that confidence just by virtue of the fact that you haven't played very much. So I don't know. I think the one thing I always just encourage people to do is have positive self-talk and have positive talk in the tent, even if things aren't well. Like on that Bazaar map, I was like one of the worst rounds I've had in a while, and I was still able to like talk and laugh with Wookiee and that sort of thing. Like I didn't let it get to the core of my being. And you need to make sure everybody on the team is on that boat if you start kind of drifting a little bit. If you hear somebody starting to get tilted, try to calm them down. Hear somebody getting overconfident, tell them, hey, it's not over yet. Like, like we're doing well, that's great, but you need to take that next step psychologically and say, but it's not over yet. Period. It's not over until you see a 4 or 5 on the board. Sides. Please keep that in mind. I think that's the best you can do. And exact nuances of that just come with time and experience. So,
Definitely.
First of all, thank you, Dankbank, for the subscription. Orpheus636 asks, any tips for improving reaction time in VR?
Again, I don't play that much anymore, and I don't actually rate my shooting ability or speed or accuracy to be amazing, because I just don't have the time to really, really work on those skills. They're adequate. They're good enough, but it's probably something I could work on. Would be actually improving those. There are some drills you can do in shooting range. I know that Data's use some external software for aim training and stuff. You just want to be able to, so you want to have the ability to snap onto target quickly. So doing things like having a gun stock of some form can help, because your gun's coming up consistently. Practicing with that gun stock and not changing things on that gun stock so that it does come up consistently if you do use a gun stock, that can help a lot as well. Because you want to get that muscle memory in, so that when you do pull something up, no matter what the position is, you know that your bullets are going to at least be within a zone first shot, and then as you actually establish a proper sight picture, you're not making major adjustments. Yeah.
Well,
Again, haven't really practiced it.
you kind of alluded to this, but I just want to highlight it because I know you're not the kind of person to highlight it. But James has significantly fewer hours than you would expect. And you're still like a top-notch player. So just asking for the benefit of newer players, if it's not the time in game, which I firmly agree with, then what do you think people should be focusing on just to improve their overall play beyond just kind of the surface stuff like what we're talking about already?
The thing which I think benefits my play the most is always having a really good picture of the map in my head. So I always have a running 3D model essentially of the map in my head, and I'm adding information to that model as the round progresses of where people are based on callouts, where they could potentially go to without being seen. Adding all that information in and adding detail to that map so that in the late round you can make informed decisions on your movements. That's a really important one. It's probably quite a hard one to do, and it's probably links into my day job a bit. Is that I do that as part of my day job, that sort of stuff, and that's helped me. So that's something which, if you can work on that, and you can get a good visual picture of the map, including in callouts as well, helps a lot. That's really useful. Other things which I do outside of the game, I did in the past when I had more time. I did used to do a bit of opposition research, which helped for learning their positions and also helped me learn positions for myself. Also do a bit of like top-down analysis on using the maps as to where you can get lines to cover objective. And then the most important part of that is knowing that if you knock one of those lines out, one of your defenders dies, you can adjust the other lines to still have cover, or whether people need to actually move and rotate to cover it, and then try and communicate that information across the team. So that's something I can do without having to be in game. So like I can spend time with family or chill out on the couch in the evening, and I can think that through without having to have something in front of me, or I can actually have like a picture of the map in front of me and actually draw stuff on it and stuff. So that's the main things I do, which I feel have been important for my particular play style. But yeah, actually playing the game a lot is not something. I don't play it infrequently, but I do not have massive hours in the game.
I don't see a ton more questions here, but I'll give the audience one more opportunity. If you want to drop any more questions in the chat, you can. But in the meantime, I did talk reaction time a little bit about having a stock and all that. Now would be the opportunity to plug a certain company that makes stocks.
Yeah. I'm not very good at this. I want people to make informed choices, so I also give the there are other options out there, but I do make a gun stock, which was originally one designed for my personal play, and then is one which I've given to teammates. And as of a couple of weeks, I think all of Mayhem will have a BowK stock. So yeah, that is definitely an option for what I feel is a really good competitive gun stock. The things it's prioritized it wants to be really lightweight and really stiff, and I want it to be, because it's about that consistent, bringing the gun up the same every time, getting your muscle memory trained, being able to pull the gun into your shoulder, things like that. So yeah, but speak to people who have them, or come join my BowK VR Discord, or go to Data's Discord. I'd rather you hear from people who actually have them than hear from me, because I have an inherent bias.
Naturally.
Yeah.
I dropped a link in there. In fact, anytime you're watching my stream, you can !stock. Stocks. Anyway, I don't see any more questions in the chat. Still pretty stable viewer count, so thank you again to everybody who showed up and watched. We're almost 2 hours in. I'm amazed at how little drop-off there's been. Clearly, this is... Oh, Marksman says one more working on it.
Oh, jeez.
Typical Marksman.
A Marksman question.
Yeah. So, let's see.
How can you be a good mod?
Yeah, wow. I have to say, so in case anybody doesn't know, James, Marksman, both mods. Can we just get a round of applause in the audience virtually for the fact that we have mods who are willing to do this? Doing it for free, too, by the way. And there's just so many people in the league now. We've got, what, like 1,200, 1,300 players now? And you guys have to corral those people?
It does. There's a lot. It does take a lot of time. I don't talk about it much, but like the team will definitely know. People think that being a mod is a positive thing for play, but it's actually been a negative for Mayhem, and I feel bad about it a bit. because I used to spend a lot more time helping the team out and doing team stuff in terms of looking at enemy strats and stuff, and I don't spend any of that time anymore. So if I wanted to focus purely on just a more selfish aspect of the team and the team doing better, I would not be a mod. The reason I want to do it is because I believe in Onward, and I really think it's the best competitive VR shooter at the moment. With that sort of more realistic. I know it's not full realism and all that, but it's more realistic than other shooters out there. Yeah.
All right, so
And
sorry, go ahead.
no. And I was going to say on to Marksman's question.
Okay, so Marksman asks, aggressive teams. With this game structure, how do you effectively combat aggression when the netcode/fundamentals of the game support that playstyle?
I think the most important thing is not exposing yourself to corners. It's harder with some more and more smaller maps and stuff because you can't counter corner picks really. So if you instead pull your line back and cover yourself from the corner and try and engage them as they cross the open instead, I think that's a really useful thing to do because they're gonna come around aggressively on you, and if you're exposed to that corner as they come around, they are seeing you the instant you're seeing them, and they have a netcode advantage on that peak. So I would probably adjust your line back, cover yourself from the corner, hold your line back through the open if you can. The other side of it is pulling some aggression into your play also helps. So we talked about with Cappy's slow peek onto someone. You know, you're gonna if you can more aggressively clear a room. It is yeah, good thing to do. You can a good point to look at there are the difference between Cappy on Bazaar slow peak clearing that idiot uh, on the Kyoto objective, and the other one was how I peaked 404 on, or how I attacked 404 on that last objective where I went for the cap afterwards. I got to a staging point, and then from the staging point, I aggressively took the corner, knowing that he's going to be in that position because he has to be looking at the objective. Yeah, so that'll be the main things on that. In terms of next question, what do we discuss intent between rounds from Nomad VR? Not a huge amount now. A little bit of we probably talked for about 10 seconds on the previous round, just to sort of get out of our heads a little bit. And then we really move into the next round, but not too much. We tend to ready up, and if they're ready to go, we'll just go. Attack, especially, we don't talk about much. Really planning out your attacks is not something I massively advocate, because if you have a really detailed plan and something goes wrong, your plan doesn't really have an ability to adjust. So it's more of we have more generalized plans of I'm going to try and get to here, you're going to try and get to there, and then we'll deal with it. We rely more on our communication and adjustment in the field. We don't really rely on timed smokes or timed movements or anything like that, or really specific routes to get there. On defense, most of us know our positions already on the ones which we have really established positions. If we're adjusting things, we adjust them quickly in the tent. If we need to clarify a position or someone's playing a position they haven't run before, we quickly do that in the tent. But overall, there's not too much we go over. Just quick sort of clarifications generally.
Something that a lot of players are kind of surprised by is like how little discussion happens in the net. I think the expectation is that higher level we're spending all our time doing intricate plans on the board or something, but the truth is, like, you get enough experience playing with a group of people, you don't need to do it that much. Yeah, you kind of do some reminders like, hey, this person's here, this person's there, but especially like you said on attack, it's kind of like, all right, well, we're going this direction, they're going this direction, and then together and communicate pretty much.
Yep.
Other than that, I would say in intent, That's correct. Sometimes there is a little bit of a pep talk, especially if we're getting down. It's just like, hey guys, like your heads up. It's okay. Still have this. James is great about that. They can lead, making sure we're not getting too films about anything that's happening in the match. Don't get that tilted that often, surprisingly. Considering we've been through some pretty gnarly situations, you don't see a ton. Walk up.
Yeah, we're also. This is comes into like, and we've talked. It's been talked about in Thea's videos. I've talked about it in the past as well. It comes into the team formation side. Some teams are formed purely based upon skill and stuff, and that's really not how Mayhem's been formed. I'm not saying that we're not skilled and stuff, like definitely as skilled as individual players, but we're much more. I don't want to use the cliche as a family, but it's that sort of. We're much more a close knit group who enjoy playing with each other, and that's really important because it gets us over those tilt aspects. Because we can make shitty comments at each other, which you do in the heat of the moment, but people know that they come from someone who's a friend. It's not a shitty comment from someone you don't like. It's a shitty comment from a friend, which is taken differently and can be moved past more rapidly and taken in the right way. Yeah, a like-minded group. Yeah.
I can't remember any time where somebody said something sharp in the tent and then it was like a real problem after that. Like I think we all understand it's just in the moment. Things get heated, especially like a big casted match or something. But I don't think anybody on the team takes it personally. It's key. If somebody took it personally, then we're gonna have a hard time on Mayhem because we give each other a lot of shit. Okay, so next question. Not sure says, do you think all the new teams will have a long-term effect on the meta?
There'll be aspects. There's already been what will be a long-term effect on the game in both positive and negative ways, as I'm sure everyone knows. Positive being obviously the massive increase in the player base, but negative being the reduction in integrity of the netcode in some ways. Without getting into the whole political side of Quest versus PCVR. In terms of meta, in terms of gameplay, one thing which Onward did have in the past, which I really liked, was there was some belief in Onward being a game more about strategy and realism. And one thing which, when you get a large influx of players who have not been around for all that time to understand the game as we believed it previously. I'm not saying it's the right way. It was the game as it was previously believed it was. They'll come in and maybe be more focused on pure winning. And so you will see more aggressive strats and all this sort of stuff. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just something which you need to adjust to. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it goes, because it is you're getting like a doubling in player base over the last couple of seasons, if not potentially more. So it's about making sure the game. It's more of a question, in my opinion, for DPI. They need to really be certain about where they want the game to go. And obviously, the competitive side of the game is only one tiny aspect of the game. It's important because competitive integrity is something which people would look for. In general play, you don't want to, when you're playing outside of league as well, you don't want to feel like you're playing on a lopsided playing field. So getting that feedback from the league, in my opinion, is quite important. But it's also making sure that the identity of the game and intent of the game is maintained, and that's more for them to do within their control of programming and stuff. It's unfortunate over the last 9 months, however long it's been, there have been so many problems, and I'm hoping, but if we look at where we've come from 9 months ago, a lot of things are getting improved, and I think as we come forward, certainly by season 12, I think we're going to have a much more stable game, and be focusing more on improvements rather than sort of just fixes. I think DPI will be doing that. Yeah. One really positive thing I like, not really about the player base, but I've liked that there are some custom maps coming in and some change up, because it was getting a little bit, personally, I was getting a little bit stale playing the same map every single week, because you'd often play the same, you play four of the same maps essentially. You rotate between them. So it's cool seeing some difference. It's hard, but it's cool. Yeah.
I don't know. I think that was a fantastic answer. The only thing I would add is I think just by sheer volume, it's bound to have an impact. Have that many new brains working, solving problems in the game. Someone's going to come up with something new and interesting. Seeing that, like, players like, let's say, Lego, who just rushes headlong to the objective and somehow still manages to cap. Like, you're just going to see crazy play styles, and that's going to have an impact. Like, people have to adjust to that. So, yeah, I think it's going to be largely a good thing, but I also said I kind of prioritizing things. Let's see.
No, it'll be up to them. I don't know what their plans are. And just thinking, well, they want this game to succeed, so they will be doing things in the best interest of the game as they see it, and I'm sure that there'll be a lot of alignment between that and the league.
So one question, not just for you that I personally have, but I think for people in the audience to think about, maybe throw your answers in there too, is like, how do you gauge skill when a metagame changes that much? So for example, last season was really chaotic, right? And so you have a 5-minute timer, you don't have smokes, which totally changes the game. Whoever comes out on top of that, obviously they're good. Like, there's no question about that. But then it's like the next season, people are. Is it just because they're good at that specific metagame, or is it all like? How do you measure it when you have a metagame that changes that much? Because if you look at regular sports or something, the metagame does not change that dramatically ever.
You'll get, I think when you saw this last season, you get some people who early adopt to a meta, and that's good in a way. But then I think you see a re-establishing of the norm pretty quickly, where teams adjust to a level they feel appropriate, and to that new meta. I'm trying to think through like what happened last season. Like there were like a big thing was, for example, peacekeepers for a while last season were really championing that 5-man push, and it worked for 3 or 4 games in a row. And we thought about it carefully and adjusted to it, and ended up effectively shutting it down during that match. They've then adjusted on to different strats, but it was something which a meta can work effectively really well, but you also need to be prepared if it is if it's prepared to that it may die down, or it may become an established practice. In that case, it was something which died down a little bit. It's probably become, there are more 4-man pushes now than there were previously. I'm trying to think how it translates to skill, how that reflects in skill. So it's about, I don't know. I feel like you end up getting very similar teams still being on top, to be honest. You get new teams coming in who've got lots of skills. So there's absolute new teams coming in, like Raptors, and then the rest are ones who are pretty much the ones who put in the time and play the game with that mindset of your competitive winning mindset. Has that answered it? I don't know. I've gone off
It was
point a bit.
Pretty open-ended question, so I think that's a fantastic answer. I think your point, you look at a team like, quote unquote Jigglez, they hadn't played for months and they still showed up and put on a great fight. I think I think you're still going to see like beginners still number one, like still a great team despite all the meta changes. I think that's kind of what's intimidating to people, is like, you don't really understand it until you play these teams. But like the top 20 is really hard to crack into. The top 10, really hard to crack into, but it's harder than that. And then the top 5, that's a whole different animal on top of that. Really start to see, like you said, almost a stability at the very top. It's always the same teams, the same players who are adapting across the meta changes. That to me is like, I guess to answer my own, that's like really the sign of skill is being adapt to all the still come out.
Yeah.
All right, so we're at about 2 hours and 10 minutes. I will give you guys another moment for more questions. Otherwise, I'm going to assume that we're done tonight. Viewer count has somehow gone up. So we are getting more interest as time goes on. If you guys have any more questions, please drop them in the chat. A few moments. But
Another thing is, if you like this format, let us know by passing it on to people and getting them involved in Theta's Discord and all that sort of stuff. It's always good to grow it. But let us know, and we'll see whether we can do this again for another match. I certainly found it really useful, and I think it's really useful vocalizing it to teammates as well, because then there's more of a group understanding on things.
of course, yeah, I mean, I learn things every time I talk to you about the game, so I appreciate it. I would assume that you get it as well. And also, for anybody that's watching, worried about missing any of this, I'm going to turn this into a video and just put it on YouTube as well later. You guys can watch it. Twitch keeps videos for 2 weeks and then delete happens, so it's there for posterity to check out. But yeah, if you guys want more of this, in the Cult of Theta Discord all the time. So is James. He's a mod there. Actually, an admin. Correctly. Come join us.
I somehow got that role.
Yeah, somehow. So if you want to join us, it's just invite.gg/VR. In fact, I think I have. Yeah, so exclamation point Discord. Link right there in the chat if you guys want it. So I don't see any more questions, and Not Sure says yes more, please. All right, maybe we'll do that next week or something. But I think for now we're going to wrap it up. Thank you, James, for taking the time. I know you've got a lot on your plate.
No, thanks for inviting me. I really enjoyed this. It was really good.
Yeah, great time. Thanks, everybody, for showing up, and that's all for tonight. Later.
Cheers, guys. See you.